As you can probably tell by my incredibly aesthetic background, I'm moving. Thomas and I are moving to be closer to my parents because who doesn't love free childcare? And as we've been moving, I've discovered some parallels between moving and practicing, including about motivation to do so, how to tackle a large task. And I just thought I would turn the camera on and share some of that with you, regardless of what the space around me looks like. So stick around. We're going to talk about some things that moving house can teach you about practicing. First things first, both moving house and practicing can feel like an overwhelming task that you just don't have the energy for. But I love that piece of advice that says, just open the case, just put on your gym shoes, like break it into like, what's the one small thing that will get you to start that task? And once you're off and running, you may feel like continuing. I wanted to add to this though, as much as I do love that piece of advice, and it often does work for me once I'm all dressed to go exercise. Well, I might as well, I'm out of bed at this point, right? Same thing, open the case, tune. Okay, well, I might as well play something. Oh yeah, this is actually kind of fun. Okay, I'll do it a little bit more. It's also okay to not feel like continuing. It's okay to just open the case, tune your instrument and go, I don't have it today, and put it away. That has to be okay, not only for your own mental health, but it has to be okay in order for that whole system to work. Because if you know that every time you put on your gym shoes, you're gonna like beat yourself up if you don't go to the gym, or every time you open your case, you don't beat you're gonna beat yourself up if you don't practice, all of your scales and all of your whatever it is that you're working on, then you're gonna have a big barrier to doing that even first simple thing. So it's really okay. You can just tell yourself, hey, I'm just taking care of my instrument, right? I'm gonna open the case, I'm gonna clean off the strings if I forgot to do that last time, I'm gonna tune my instrument so that it sits nicely in the case at the tuning that it likes to be at. And if I feel like continuing, cool. If not, I've taken care of my instrument. I'm a good steward of my musical instrument, and I can feel good about that for the day. So it really can be that very tiny task. And like I said, that has to be okay for this to work. But yeah, I feel like a lot of people who give this kind of advice neglect to mention that. And I think it's really important. It's part of the larger picture of just like being nice to yourself, right? So we're all about that around here. Second thing, on a related note, you can still do it if you're tired, right? You don't have to put all the whole kitchen away if you're tired. I mean, for us, it's a multi-day and maybe even multi-week process to get our kitchen together the way we want it. But we can just take out the spoons and then we have spoons. So that's great. It's okay if we're still, trying to find the rice or whatever. True story, I still have to do that later for dinner. But the idea is that, okay, cool, well, at least I made some progress. And then maybe the next day you open another box and see what's there. And you go, oh yeah, I didn't remember that we even had that. Or why did I pack that and move it? I haven't used that and I don't intend to use it. It's going out. So, I mean, the same thing is true when you're practicing. You can just, if you're tired and you're like, okay, well, I'm just gonna tune my instrument, maybe I'll play a scale. Maybe all I'm gonna do is play a couple of my favorite tunes and put it away. And that in itself can just remind you why you're doing that in the first place, why you actually play your instrument. It's very enjoyable to play things that you already know. You're just doing your review pieces, your review tunes, the stuff that you can just open your case and more or less play right out the gate. And again, you gotta be nice to yourself, especially if you're not warming up and you're just going, I'm just gonna beat the heck out of my fiddle for a minute. That can really be cathartic, and that's really worth doing. Sometimes, if you only have 5 minutes, sometimes, you have 5 minutes and you have the focus and concentration and energy to do a really good solid 5 minutes, like really relaxing into your instrument and really trying to recreate how you feel on your best day. Sometimes we have 5 minutes and we don't feel like that. Sometimes we just go, I've just had this tune in my head. I'm just gonna open and go and play this tune and then I'm gonna put it away. And that's totally okay. That's totally okay. And a lot of people would say, or teachers would say, well, that doesn't really count as practicing. I disagree. There's a lot to be said for the skill of the open and go. I didn't have time to warm up and now I have to play. Like, that's really important. And to have that skill, you know, where everything is not set up exactly perfectly. Some of us string players sort of select for these very like type A kind of personalities that everything must be just so. And it's really good to practice that kind of flexibility. So I really think that that counts as practice, but you have to know what it is that you're practicing, right? It's not technical practice, that's for sure, if you're just playing stuff that you already know. But what it is it's, you know, it's performing practice, it's recall practice. Really, really highly valuable. So again, even if you're tired, you can just open one box, just open the case, just play a couple things, and just, you know, do it tired. And who knows, you might feel a little less tired after you've accomplished putting something away, or after you've played this tune that's been on your mind. Progress is going to take longer than you think. Now, nobody goes into a move or into learning an instrument and going, oh, I'm gonna get this all done tomorrow and then go on to the next. No, that's not how it works, right? We all know, like, intellectually, that it's hard, it's gonna take some work, it's gonna take time. And it's important to know that no matter how much time you think it's gonna take more time in reality than you thought. When you thought it was gonna take 2 weeks to unpack the house, it's gonna take a month. If you thought it was gonna take a month to unpack the house, it was gonna take a month and a half or 2 months or something like that. Or you think it's gonna take several months to unpack the house, years later, you're still gonna have boxes in the garage or the corner of that one room. So that is a thing to know, that everything is gonna take longer than you think. Now, that doesn't mean everything is going to take longer than you think, because progress is also not linear, right? So you have a skill, like let's say you're learning to do vibrato. Vibrato is something that just sort of classically takes forever, right? Because there's the bones and there's so many bones in the wrist. No one's really sure how many bones there. I'm just kidding. But we have so many different ways that the hand can move, this way, that way, the other thing. We have vibrato for cello this way, or, you know, we can accidentally do this or that sort of thing. And figuring out how to actually do motions that are going to work for both your body and the sound that you're going to make is absolutely finding the direction and speed and tension placement of your muscles, your bones, everything like that, in a way that works for both your body and the sound that you're trying to make. Definitely is not a linear process, right? So many factors go into that, right? You know, how good are you at basically that feedback loop of, I hear this and I know that it's because I did this. I hear that in my head, I do this, and it's going to create the sound that then I hear in the real world. How good are you at that, giving yourself feedback basically, or taking physical corrections if you've done sports or dance or something like that, that you're able to make these small sorts of changes. How good is your ear, right? How good is your focus, right? All of these kind of things all play into it. You know, how naturally tense or loose are you? You know, what is your physical setup like? You know, what are your proportions like in your body? So all of these things can come into play, and they intersect in very strange ways sometimes, especially depending on conflicting advice that you've gotten. Here I am on YouTube talking about it, but a lot of times I will say, like, you know, on YouTube there's a lot of conflicting advice. So, you know, if you take nothing else away from this section of the video, just to go, if something it feels fine for your body and it makes the sound that you want, then you're doing it right. So, you know, if you find this or that piece of advice on YouTube, that this is just totally a sidebar, but if you find this or that piece of advice from anywhere really, and that works for you, then it works for you, and you don't need somebody else's permission, as long as it creates the sound that you want and that it works for your body, and that it doesn't hurt, or it's not going to hold you back from doing something else that you want to do. So in terms of progress not being linear, right? That's the sometimes there's a box you open up, it's like, okay, cool, well, I know where all my underwear goes. That's, you know, no problem, I can throw that in the dresser, versus like, all my books are like in a weird order because I had to stack them by size and not by topic. And so there's hence a lot of empty shelves still going on in here. Yeah, progress it's something that it takes a lot longer than you think. and it's not something that it might be 2 steps forward, 1 step back, or 2 steps back, or 3 steps back, you know, if you get injured or something like that. But it is something that you have to have both stamina and a sense of humor about, really. And you have to, again, I'm going back to being kind to yourself. We're all about being kind to ourselves because that is the thing that is going to help you progress. I mean, there's absolutely no one is handing out medals for suffering more at the end of the day. As one creator I like to follow says that a lot. And it's really quite true. This is hard enough as it is. There's no need to make it harder by being mean to yourself. You know, it's not somehow more virtuous to like only think that you are doing a bad job. Because if you don't recognize that sometimes you're doing a good job and what it is that you're doing to do a good job, you're never gonna get better. So recognizing when things are going well is another thing that you want to be on the lookout for. So that would be, you know, you get something set up in your house just right. Oh, good. Like, don't just assume it's bad. Like, figure out if you like it or not. Maybe you have to live with it in something in a certain place for a while, either out of necessity or just to see if you like something the way you have it set up. Same thing with, you know, I'll use the vibrato example again. You just have to go with it for a while and go, okay, well, this isn't comfortable yet, but maybe it sounds right. Maybe it doesn't hurt. Maybe I just need to kind of get used to it. Maybe that's all it takes. So recognizing when something's going well and recognizing what it is that you're doing to create that thing that's going well and trying to do more of it. If you have that little vignette set up in your living room, well, can you design around that? Or is that something that you need to adjust, right, later when you get more of your living room put together? So that's something that I like to draw as a parallel as well. I've definitely also noticed that between both moving and practicing, there is a point of diminishing returns. There is such a thing as over practicing for too long, for example. There are a lot of ways to practice ineffectively or inefficiently, but one really easy one to spot is, you know, have you been practicing for 2 hours straight with no break and you forgot to drink water or whatever? That is going to definitely have this curve of like, oh, okay, warmed up, okay, I'm getting better, okay, and then like it starts to get worse as you get tired. And it's important to like recognize that about yourself, right? About how long before you hit that fall off point. The same thing is true in moving. Definitely, I've been in the position of, okay, I have this all planned out, like what's gonna go in each box. And I don't know if you can see I have this like color coding system, which works super well, by the way. Just shout out to Quantum Movers. Thanks guys, you are awesome. Not sponsored, just if you're moving in the Bay Area. Yeah, they're good. But basically, yeah, I have everything planned out, but you always get to that point where you're like, oh my God, the movers are coming in 2 days or they're coming tomorrow. And I just got back from a late night gig in San Francisco, true story. It's time to just start throwing things in boxes, right? That's your point of diminishing returns on your system, right? Because you just, at that point, you just have to get it done. So like this analogy is maybe a little bit split in that way, but definitely found that like, if I try to still really stick to this exact same plan that I'm trying to do, I'm gonna end up getting no sleep the night before a move, which is not a good idea. And likewise, when you're practicing, if you just try and like pound out like, okay, I have 2 hours worth of stuff to practice, I'm gonna do it all at once. That plan is maybe not the strategy that you need. So finding a way to be flexible about it, either by just throwing shit in boxes or by, you know, taking a break. And, you know, ideally in your move, you spread this out over several days rather than you leave it to the last minute. But, you know, life happens, right? So that's another thing that is a parallel for me, is that point of diminishing returns. Like, how are you gonna, when you get to that point, how are you gonna handle that? And it's maybe worth having a plan or like knowing yourself to go, okay, like if I get to my new place and stuff is everywhere in every random box, is that really gonna like cause me psychological distress? Or is it okay if I go, oh yeah, this is one of my like later boxes from my from my Jackson Pollock period of packing, and is that just gonna be okay and everything will eventually be put away where it belongs? Likewise with practicing, you know, can you recognize when you've hit that, like, this isn't getting better, in fact, I'm actually maybe even learning wrong things, I'm playing the same thing, but I have more tension now because I'm getting tired. Can you start to recognize that point in yourself in both of these scenarios and have a plan, work around it, you know, take your break, come back later. Here's another good one. You might not always have the equipment you need. Have you ever gone to a jam session, or I hope not, an audition or a rehearsal or something like that without your shoulder rest, without your bow, without your, you know, earplugs if you're playing in a rock band? I have done all three of these things more than once. Without your mic, you know, that's something, you know, when you're moving, you know, you might, if you run out of tape or boxes, you might have to improvise, get yourself a garbage bag. If you're at that gig with no earplugs, maybe you go in the bathroom and you get some paper towels and kind of do your best. That's definitely a good skill in terms of flexibility as well, to be able to, you know, paper towels are really great. That you can't really use them as a bow unless it's like you're mic'd really well, I guess. Put a lot of rosin on them, but you can wad up a bunch and sort of use them as a shoulder rest if you have a rubber band in particular. Yeah, all hail the paper towel. It's certainly more useful. Those industrial paper towels are more useful as earplugs or shoulder rests than they are as towels. Yeah, if you're into towels with absorbency, they're not, anyway, they're not the recommended. Finally, it might be a while before a new place or a new instrument feels like home, right? Everything takes some getting used to. Move to a new place, you're probably opening the wrong doors, you forget what switches are for what. Same thing with an instrument. You know, you pick up a new instrument, maybe you're even, you know, you're excited about your new place or your new instrument, but it's not, doesn't feel the same as your old place. And there might even be things you liked better about the old one, even as you recognize that this is an upgrade, I hope, for you. And that is a thing that you know you're going to get used to it, but you want to make sure that it doesn't cloud your opinion of your new instrument. For example, if you like the way that it sounds, but you don't like the way that it feels yet, give it time. A lot of times those things can be adjusted as well. If over time, you know, the neck is a different width or the bridge is too tall or something like that. Again, if you like the way it sounds, the way it feels will come. Just approach it in a nice relaxed way. You know, if you're running into doors at home, you know, just breathe, calm down. Eventually you might stop stubbing your toes on things, or if you're like me, you'll just wear slippers because you'll just continue to stub your toes on things. But it's about, you know, working with what you've got. On your instrument, it can be, you know, as simple as going, okay, and I am just going to have my vertebrae nice and stacked. I'm going to hang my arms, and I'm going to approach this instrument in the most sort of neutral, relaxed way I possibly can. And I'm going to learn, I'm going to let it teach me what it needs. So I'm letting my new house teach me what the flow of it is like. You know, I go from here to there. This is, you know, my morning routines and my evening routines are shaped by the space that I'm in. Likewise, the physical approach to your instrument is going to be shaped by how your instrument responds to you. So that is really a magical journey to go on with a new instrument. I find, of course, this is my same fiddle I've played since I was 18, and I love the way that it feels. I have played other fiddles that I love the way they sound, but yeah, I have grown, this instrument has grown with me. And over time, if you're in your new place or with your new instrument for long enough, it will also start to feel like home. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this kind of goofy comparison between moving and practicing. If you have anything that you'd like to add, throw it in the comments below. If there's something that you've discovered about practicing that's like moving, or moving that's like practicing. Maybe you just want to vent about how frustrating it is to move. That's totally good. This is a safe space. And if you're an adult learning violin, fiddle, viola, or cello, head to altstringsacademy.com. That's altstringsacademy.com to learn how we can support you in your musical journey.